Hi, this is Abul Hussain coming to you direct from London, the United Kingdom, and welcome to another episode of the SMMA Mastermind podcast, where we discuss how you can start or scale your digital marketing agency, and we also bring in guests who will show you how you can deliver better results for your clients. Now, if you are watching this episode outside of our Facebook group, then find the link above or below this video, or go to smmamastermind.com. Now, with that out of the way, I have a very special guest joining me all the way from Chicago, and he is going to talk to you about how you can use social media to build your authority, credibility, and position yourself as a thought leader. His name is Irfan Jeffrey, and he is the founder of and CEO of Roosterly. Irfan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I had a chance to check out your background as well. Very impressive. Appreciate to hopefully providing your audience with some value.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. Now, for the people who are watching this and they don't know who you are, how about a little bit of a background into how you got into the world of social media?
Oh gosh, it started out as a research project. I was working for someone and I was interested in understanding how executives and C-level folks primarily were utilizing social media platforms, primarily like LinkedIn, to grow their network, to grow their trust, to grow their engagement, to utilize social selling. And so that research project became a passion of mine. And over time, we ended up raising some money and we built some technology, and Roosterly started back in May of 2015.
Right, so that's been running for about 5 years now. What does Roosterly actually do?
So we position ourselves as a low-cost social media management service for professionals. So if you think about our typical client, they are a small business owner, they are an executive, they might be in sales, they might be in coaching, they might be insurance, they might be in consulting, but they grow revenue primarily by building relationships. And if you're in sales or you know somebody in sales, oftentimes what happens when you're building relationships and closing business, managing your social media can become challenging. Letting people know that you're at the top of your game or sharing relevant content all the time can become challenging. So we solve that problem by helping our executives position themselves as subject matter experts in their field, whether it be digital marketing or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
So is your platform connected to LinkedIn and other platforms? And I'm guessing it lets you create and post content through it, or do you also help with the kind of creating the actual content?
Yeah, actually both. So we have about 1,600 subscribers right now. Most of them lean on us to create, post, share content on the fly throughout the month. They rarely actually log in and post content themselves. They have that ability to do that, but our focus is providing a done for you type of service.
Okay, that's awesome. So for the people who are watching this, who want to brand themselves as a subject matter expert, you know, what kind of content should they be looked to producing?
Yeah, what we've seen is there is this default towards focusing on oneself. So look, I'm an XYZ, subject matter expert on whatever industry. And I always am, I'm talking about a hypothetical scenario. You've got a lot of people doing this. They're always focusing on themselves. Our focus is to help folks turn that around, flip it upside down. You're not going to provide value. You're not going to see engagement. You're not going to see true thought leadership until and unless you focus on your audience, right? What are they in need of? What are they searching for? How can you help them be the best version of themselves? And that's really probably priority number one when we talk to new clients.
And in terms of like video versus long form copy versus articles and blogs, what kind of content, what format of content are you producing for your clients?
Yeah, so primarily a lot of it is curated content from third-party publications, okay? We found that that engages pretty well for the price point that we charge. You know, look, we've got some clients that spend thousands of dollars writing articles that get, you know, they'll hire blog writers and so forth, and they get relatively low engagement. Then you've got other clients that will produce a 1-minute video and, you know, put a fraction of the dollars behind it to promote it. That gets considerably much larger engagement. So it hasn't, you know, you've got to take it a step back to understand, okay, what's the client's business? What's the most efficient way to find their audience? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Okay. And given that platform, what mode of content makes the most sense? Is it blogs? Is it articles on Medium? Is it a quick video? Is it images? Is it infographics? So understanding that becomes really important, because you can spend a lot of money on this kind of stuff and not necessarily get any results. So we're looking at how do we maximize the ROI with the least amount of investment spent.
Right.
Really efficiently. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sure. So are you actually taking content that has already been written and published and resharing them, or repurposing them to a certain degree? You know, I mean, how does your process actually work?
That's where our programs start. So for $99 a month, we do 16 posts per month, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and that's curated content. Let me just sort of quickly explain the back-end process of how that works. So how that works is, think of it as 3 buckets. The first thing our software does is it takes a look at all your social profiles and it gets a sense of who you are, the keywords associated with what you do. For example, in your case, digital marketing, revenue growth, ROI, etc. So we say, okay, this is what this guy is about. So the relevant content would be tied to those keywords. Make sense? Now, the second component is our algorithm looks at your audience. Who are you connected to? What type of content are they engaging with? What are they liking? What are they sharing? Because what we don't want to do is have you just be a mouthpiece for garden variety digital marketing. If we understand what your audience actually cares about and what they like, by us mimicking that, you're more likely to get a larger lift in engagement and profile views on LinkedIn and other platforms. So that's very important to us, right? So for example, let me just back up. If you and I met at a Starbucks and all I'm talking to you about is digital marketing, right? And we're just getting to know each other, potentially working with each other, you're going to think to yourself, wow, this guy is very one-dimensional. All he talks about is the same thing. And that's not how human relationships are built. How human relationships are built is, how do you relate to one another? What else do you do, right? There's probably, just based on your name, there's probably 15 things that come to mind that you and I can talk about that I know we probably have in common. And that's how real relationships are built, okay? And so our focus is understanding what commonalities do you have with your audience, and how can we incorporate that into your content stream through curated content. Really important. And the third component is we have all of our clients go through an onboarding with us where they select their keywords, their hashtags, publications, podcasts, etc. So we've got some input from them too as to the type of content that makes sense for them. So those 3 buckets, which is sort of our algorithm, are what go into the process. And that's how we are able to do what we do for, you know, a fraction of the cost of what a social media agency would charge, if that makes sense.
No, that sounds like quite a clever tool, to be honest. So I'm guessing, you know, a part of it is obviously looking at what you're interested in. A part of it's doing social listening in terms of what your audience is interested in, kind of finding and bridging that gap, I suppose, in the common denominators, if you want to call it that.
That's exactly right. I mean, you can actually log into our platform and you can monitor keywords, you can monitor hashtags, you can see what's been scheduled, you can schedule on your own. There's a whole slew of things that you can do, but I would say about 85% of our subscriber base just uses our service kind of in a set it and forget it type of a scenario where we're just posting the content for them on the right days, on the right times when their audience is most active.
And I suppose looking at your most successful profiles, what kind of impact are they having with their target audience?
Yeah, so I think, so there's a couple of things that are really important in order to set expectations with all of our clients at that $99 level. And I don't mean to make this an ad for Roosterly, that's not what it is. Look, our basic programs, they're really meant as a low touch, low cost way to stay engaged with your audience. It's not going to generate sales. It's not going to generate leads. We're posting content, okay? And so that's really important, first piece to understand. Now, that said, in some cases, we've seen 25, 35% lift. We've got a number of testimonial videos on our website, and different folks utilize Roosterly with different intentions. You've got some people that say, hey, I'm looking for increase in profile views. I'm looking for a job, or, I work in marketing or I work in sales. I want to be in front of my audience. Okay, great. You'll see when you log into your LinkedIn, once we've been posting content for a month or two, an incremental lift in your profile views, how often you appear in search results, who's viewed your profile, likes, comments, shares, all of those KPIs, you should generally see an increase. Now, that's also dependent on how large your network is. That's also dependent on who you're connected to. If you've got 10,000 connections and you don't know any of them, you're probably not going to get a lot of engagement no matter what we do. So people that you're connected to have to have a good opinion of who you are. They have to be engaged with you as a person, right? I'll just give you a quick story. My wife, she can post a picture on Facebook of a coffee mug. She'll get 63 likes and, 50 comments. I can say, hey, I'm having lunch on the moon with Richard Branson. It's great. And, I might get 10 likes because I'm a dork that, stays in the office late and, whatever. But, I'm more of an introvert. So that also plays a factor. We can only do so much. So that's really important. I just want to sort of lay those expectations out there.
Okay, no, that's fine. So someone who is doing this manually essentially would be going in, kind of looking at hashtags and keywords and all of that are trending, if you're using Twitter, for example, and then obviously trying to manually kind of either find content that is relevant and post that, or create their own content and post that. So, I mean, you mentioned this is your basic level service. What's the kind of advanced services that you offer your clients?
Yeah, so two things. Number one, I would say that when it comes to our ideal client, they tend to be between, I would say, 35 and 60 years of age. They tend to be mid-level managers in an organization or above, or a small business owner. Why are they signing up for Roosterly? Because they don't want to do their social media on their own, and their time is worth more than $99. For them to sit in front of a screen for 2-3 hours, screwing around with hashtags and finding content and scheduling that on their own for a week or 2 weeks or a month, it's really not worth their time. If they do it on their own, absolutely. So that's number one. It's really a function of time and value of money, right? Other services that Roosterly provides, we do prospecting and lead generation, okay? And then we do sort of Facebook, LinkedIn, your traditional sort of agency level stuff, where it's managing LinkedIn campaigns, advertising campaigns, generating leads primarily through LinkedIn, and prospecting through LinkedIn, if that makes sense.
So when you're talking about LinkedIn advertising, right? I mean, it's being a media buyer myself by profession. That's pretty much my background. LinkedIn is one of those most expensive platforms on the planet to advertise in. What kind of campaigns do you run on LinkedIn? Is it to kind of get people reading and engaging with content? Is it to get them entering some sort of a sales funnel? Or, you know, what works for LinkedIn?
Yeah, so there's a few reasons why I really do like LinkedIn advertising. I understand that it is a slightly more expensive cost per click, but for our types of clients, it tends to work well because they know their audience very well. There's usually B2B. It's not a consumer play where Facebook might be a better channel for advertising. You asked the question, what's the objective? Is it to read something? You know, what are you trying to get them to do? It's usually to book a call. Now, I'm not able to pull up our stats, but I spend about $50 to $65 to generate a qualified lead for our salespeople. So we've got a total staff of 18 people. We've got 3 salespeople. We're generating leads utilizing our own process, which is a combination of video ads with a landing page for them to book a call, for our prospects to book a call. I'm spending about $300 a day on LinkedIn. And I continue to just reinvest those funds because our focus is subscriber growth. If I can get 3-4 appointments a day, 5-6 appointments is what we actually average. We're closing about 60% of them. You can do the math, but it generally results in about $7,500 in monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. And obviously you've probably done quite a bit of testing to, you know, dial in your numbers, getting that funnel working for you. I remember.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share those stats. I can, after this call, I can send you what that looks like. I mean,
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, we might need to even do a follow-up interview in terms of how you're running, you know, LinkedIn advertising campaigns. So
yeah, absolutely. I am all about transparency. So if you want to see this stuff at work, I have nothing to hide. Certainly,
no,
it'll help me get more clients. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. No, I love, you know, how you've obviously created this platform and you kind of, you know, got something for your niche market. So how did you come up with the whole concept of Roosterly? You know, what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so I was in a position where I had left a job and I had started this business, and it was sort of like this. I wasn't really sure what I was doing. It was sort of this web design, you know, something we're gonna do something, and so one of the things that I needed to do was be on social media. So let me just explain my day. I would go to networking events. I would do cold calling, and I would do proposals and just, you know, follow-ups and all the rest, emails. And one of the things that I was slacking on continuously was my own social media. So I would spend a week, you know, writing content, researching content, making myself look like I knew what I was talking about. And it would result in, you know, sometimes 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, doing this all myself. And it would get like 1 like. You know, or it would result in absolutely no appointments. And so if you can imagine, you know, a guy who just got married, running his own business with no revenue, and your wife's looking at you like, hey, what's for dinner? You know, that's a really scary situation to be in. And so I thought to myself, it wasn't such a linear process, but I thought, okay, look, if we could find something that solves this, if I'm having this problem of generating and posting quality content consistently on my own social platforms, I bet there's other people that are doing it too. And so we put a business plan together. Chicago is a very active tech community. We raised money in May of 2015 from investors, a seed round, which allowed us to build the technology that powers Roosterly. Today, we've got about 18 employees, so we're still a pretty tight-knit small company. And like I said, we've got about 1,700 or so subscribers. So I think we're doing something right, but there's a lot of opportunity for growth.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you've been around for 5 years. So, I mean, how did you go from you and the wife, was it, to 18 employees?
Yeah. So, gosh, raising money helps. Raising money is also pretty scary because you start thinking, you're suddenly flush with all this money and you're like, oh, I can do this, I can do this. And you start spending really heavily. So you've got to be really careful. We almost didn't make it. We lost, a good bit of the funds we raised. Now, we raised about $400,000. So, it was, in the scheme of things, it's not a huge chunk of change, but, a lot of startups think, a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs think, gosh, if I only had X amount of capital, I would crush it. And that's not the case. We were down to probably our last 150, 175,000 before we figured out, okay, this is what we need to get things to work. We spend tons of money on Facebook marketing with no results. We spent tons of money hiring random digital agencies. For some reason, when it's your own business, it's tough to come up with the marketing yourself on how to grow it. It's easy to do it for clients. And so there's a slew of challenges, but I think what ended up working is I found sort of people in Chicago. Chicago's got a rich digital marketing talent pool. So we found people here, and we're right in downtown. I live, right behind in that building right over there. So it's a short walk. I wasn't living there when we started. It was pretty bad. But my point is having really good talent, enjoying the people that you work for, where they don't feel it's just a paycheck, right? That certainly helps. And just being really mindful of how you spend your money, and just focusing on sales.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of startups that raise money and then all of a sudden their CEOs on the cover of some magazine or doing, random, ego driven things. And then they're out of business 2 years later. I needed to pay rent. I needed to buy food. And so when you're faced with those kinds of things, and look, I went to law school, I went to business school. My brother's a physician. And so they're like, my parents are looking at me like, what the heck are you doing? Like, you live in a studio apartment. And my wife's like, where did I go wrong? Like maybe this whole arranged marriage idea was a bad dream, or a bad decision. So when your back's up against the wall, you've got to basically figure out how you're going to survive. And so that doesn't matter what kind of degrees you have or what kind of experience you have. You just have to get out there and hustle and sell. And so that's, I luckily found a couple of really good salespeople to help me do that. I'm not a salesperson by my background, certainly, but being in the position, you just figure stuff out.
Yeah, and in terms of kind of your future plans, are you going to go out for another funding round, or are you going to keep on organically?
I don't really know. Right now we're growing organically. And look, when you grow, at every stage, when you raise financing, the complexity of things changes, right, considerably. So if we can grow rapidly and we can still maintain what we do, and we're still relevant and we're developing new products, then I think we can just keep going as we are.
Right, that's awesome. So final question for you, because we've run massively over time.
I'm sorry.
To get everything right. No, it's absolutely fine. It's been a great pleasure having you and talking to you about Roosterly, and obviously kind of using social media effectively, especially if you're a busy executive. Someone who is watching this, who is just kind of, maybe just kind of landed their first big middle management gig. They know they need to position themselves as a thought leader. They need to kind of be well networked and be seen to be engaging with their audience, if you like, positioning themselves as an authority, as someone who is a credible player. What advice would you give them to get started? Apart
Yeah,
from
I mean,
for your
it's pretty
platform.
basic. With us, yeah, we'll just go to roosterly.com and sign up for a demo. We've got some folks that are ready, willing, and able to walk you through what we do and see if it's a good fit for you. Try it for a month. If you like it, continue. We've got pretty low attrition. It's under about 20%. If you're on for 3 months, the likelihood that folks leave is pretty low. So we're pretty excited about the fact that we've got pretty low attrition and clients are happy with the work.
And if they wanted to do all of this manually before finding an automated solution, what would be the best approach?
If they wanted to do all this manually, which I can't imagine why you would, I would say develop an editorial calendar, think about the type of content that you want to publish, have an understanding of your audience, and research the best hashtags, put some ad dollars behind it, and publish consistently. A lot of folks don't do that. Look, it's a little bit like working out, okay? I know I'm 20 pounds overweight. I need to get my fat ass to the gym, but I'll be good for 2 weeks in a row, or maybe 3 weeks, but then I'll slack off. So we're kind of like that personal trainer, or maybe a bad analogy, but we're doing the working out for you. I don't know.
Doing the heavy lifting for us.
That's much better. Okay.
On that note, Irfan, Jeffrey, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Good chatting with you. Have a good day. Bye.